Good morning and happy Saturday, everyone. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. As always, I'm here to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. That helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. Also, if you're not a member of Occupy Fantasy, check the links in the description below to become one today. As a member, you get access to the model you see here, where you can sort ownership projections, value for both DraftKings and FanDuel, as well as our proprietary OF index to show you the best plays on a given slate. We also have a single lineup builder, multi lineup builder, private Discord server full of DFS pros to help you improve your game. All right, so we got a nice little two-game NBA slate tonight. I got to pull up NBA contests here on both sites. But yeah, so the good news is we only have two games to go through, so it shouldn't take very long at all. The bad news, I guess, is if there is any, is we are waiting on some news. The Clippers are on a back-to-back. They've been really annoying with their handling of Kawhi Leonard lately. But regardless, we can kind of parse through what is likely to happen, the plays we should be targeting, and which scenarios we need to keep an eye on. I am just refreshing the model here. I did just get the 11:30 NBA injury report. So let's go through game by game, team by team. Again, only two games. It should go pretty quick. First game on the slate, we have the Heat hosting the Mavericks. 225-point game total here. Heat are 1-point favorites at home. So the big piece of news here is on the Miami side. We are waiting to hear if Bam Adebayo is going to be playing. I'm dealing with a hip injury. Um, I don't really have a hunch either way. I guess I'd lean that he plays, and if he does, you could look to any of the starters, Butler, Hero, Bam. They're all going to look fine here. Obviously, if Bam is out, though, Butler and Hero both become priorities on both sides. Hero's certainly too cheap, even as things stand on DK. I really don't mind the price on Bam if he's available, and then Butler at 8,500 on DK is going to look good as well. Since it is a two-game slate, I think it is worth mentioning. Um, you can pay up more than you maybe would want to on a larger slate. Like sometimes to get a little bit different, you have to pay for some of these studs. I think they're priced up kind of according to the slate. So where normally I wouldn't want to pay 9,400 for Jimmy Butler if Bam's in there on FanDuel, tonight it might make sense. It's just two games. We only have so many options to choose from. But let's say Bam's out of the lineup tonight. I think that would increase the minutes and usage for someone like Kevin Love in the front court. We could see Max Strus get the start. He's had some pretty big games even off the bench. Very wide range of outcomes on him, though. We see a lot of high ceiling games, but also a lot of low floor games, so he's tough to trust. But as things stand, we really need to wait and hear what's going to happen with Bam. If he's in, I like Hero a lot on DK. I like Bam a lot on both sides. I like Butler on DK, but I wouldn't mind playing him over on FanDuel at 9,400. And then on a slate where we're lacking value, Kevin Love at 4,200 on DK definitely has some appeal as well, even given his general inconsistencies. Gabe Vincent, if Kyle Lowry's out, I guess you could go there for value. For me, he's never a play I'm really excited to get to. I'd rather get to some Caleb Martin maybe if we see him slide into the starting lineup. And since it's only two games, I'll click through some of these game logs here. Yeah, Vincent, even with Lowry kind of out a lot, I mean, he's had some big games. He's also had some terrible games. So if Lowry's out, I think you could use Vincent as a boom bust tournament play. If Lowry's in, super inconsistent, hasn't really been seeing enough minutes to hit value consistently at 5K. But on a two-game slate, I mean, if he can get you 25 to 30 fantasy points, that might be all you need. Who else? Max Strus, I've already mentioned, wide range of outcomes. We see some 2 minutes he played against New York, only 4 fantasy points the game before that against Toronto. But then we see these 30-point games mixed in, which tells you he's a pretty good boomer bust tournament type play. But yeah, Hero for me, I like on both sides. I think regardless of whether Bam's in, he does post the occasional floor game, but Dallas's defense hasn't been nearly as good as they were in recent seasons past. And yeah, I mean, he's just totally affordable at 7,100. The one other player I just wanted to check on quickly was Caleb Martin. Very inconsistent, similar to Strus, similar to Vincent, though. He does have a high ceiling, but a low floor, so I could see mixing him in. There's just so many of these similar plays for Miami. They all have low floors, pretty high ceilings. Love doesn't really have that high of a ceiling, but I think he's a higher floor than some of those guards I just mentioned, so I don't mind getting to him. But really, I hate that I even have to talk through this Miami team. They're just not all that appealing, but if Bam's going to be out, I could see getting here. Let's see. The last game Bam rested, I think Dwayne Dedman Got this, sir. Oh, it's been a long time since we've seen him off the floor. So I think more likely than not, we see Bam in here tonight. And he is probably going to be my favorite Heat player. So I'll go ahead and pencil him in for now at center. Um, don't mind maybe adding like a Tyler Hero, but there are some other players in these other spots that I do think are worth prioritizing, and they're pretty expensive. So it's going to be tough to fit like a 7K and an 8K player over on FanDuel. On DK, I'll go ahead and add Bam, but remember, if he's out, we're going to like the other starters much better. I'd get to Tyler Hero. I'd get to Jimmy Butler pretty aggressively. Again, if Adebayo's out of the lineup. Over on the Dallas side, really no significant injury news. Frank Ntilikina is questionable. He's not really a factor, though. Luka, the highest ceiling on the slate. You check the OF index scores for the entire slate. We see he's almost 2 full points higher than anyone else. So if you can afford Luka, I think he's excellent. Obviously going to be popular on a two-gamer. Kyrie, he's been pretty good. Definitely inconsistent though. Around 9K, you can get to him. Again, 2 game slate. I'm willing to get the players I normally wouldn't be all that interested in. Tim Hardaway Jr. is fine. Reggie Bullock, very, very scoring dependent, wide range of outcomes. Not a player I'm all that interested in. Christian Wood, this is a tough matchup for him, especially if Bam's in. So, not really eager to get to him. It's really kind of Doncic or bust over here on Dallas. And then if you can't afford Doncic, Kyrie certainly a solid consolation prize, but there's nothing on this Mavericks team I'm all that excited to play other than Luka. Seeing good ownership going to Hardaway Jr. over on FanDuel, where he's only 5,100. Reggie Bullock as well, 4K flat, but really that's more product of the slate than anything. We're just lacking quality value. So if you can find value plays you like that are similarly priced at lower ownership, I think in large field tournaments it makes a lot of sense to make those types of pivots. All right, so we can move into this next game now. And we have the Clippers at the Pelicans. Pelicans are 3 point favorites at home, 226.5 point game total here. So we're comparing the two games on the slate. They only have 1.5 points different in their game total. So very, very similar game environments. The tricky thing with the Clippers here is that they're on a back to back. We do not have that injury news. So last night, Kawhi Leonard, he was in, and then he just came out at the half and never went back in. So that's kind of obnoxious. But the reason for it, Ty Lue said, was that he was planning to play tonight on the back-to-back. So the Clippers still have a lot to play for. They're playing for seeding, as do the Pelicans. The Heat are trying to get out of the playing game. They're in 7th seed right now, and then Dallas is fighting to get into the playoffs. So it is worth mentioning all 4 teams on the slate are actually still relevant as far as the playoff race is concerned. I think that's important to mention. So Paul George still out. We can get to Kawhi, but given these weird rotations we're seeing out of him, given the fact it is a back-to-back, he did play half a game last night. I don't know that I want to get to him aggressively. I think I'd rather use that salary to pay up for like a Bam or a Butler or a Luka if you can get to him. If Kawhi were to suddenly be out, though, Russ is going to be one of the best plays on the entire slate. Really don't like the price tag. It's pushing 9K, but he's definitely someone I consider. And then we're seeing really high ownership percentages on Norm Powell. So Powell is working his way back from his injury. I've been hesitant to play him, knowing this, but he did get up to 25 minutes last night. So on a small slate, I don't mind getting to him here. It looks like Marcus Morris and Eric Gordon are both going to be questionable. If they're out, I'll feel a lot better about that Powell play. If Morris is in, I'd probably rather get to him. Eric Gordon a little bit overpriced, but he does probably have a higher ceiling than both of those guys. So if he's in, I don't mind him either. But yeah, over on DK, what are we looking at for prices? 4,600 on Powell. So I'll go ahead and pencil him in. Really not excited to get to him, but I think it does make some sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, Kawhi looks fine here. Obviously, no Paul George. The ceiling is certainly there. But at the same time, they've just been really strange with his minutes. It is a back to back. He did play last night. They say he's good to go, but does that mean he's good to go for a whole game? Are they going to pull him at the half again? I don't really know. I think my hunch is that he plays the full game and he's a fine play. But on a 2 game slate, I don't know that I want to take that type of risk. Maybe on DK, where he's only 12% owned, you kind of pay up to be contrarian there. But it's really not a spot I'm excited to get to. Zubac is drawing a lot of ownership. There aren't that many great center plays on the slate, especially if we don't have Bam. So I could see getting to some Zubats. Some really big games mixed in here. 40 fantasy points in just 25 minutes is certainly good to see. 22 minutes against Memphis, 20 fantasy points. I think that's more realistic for his projection. But if he gets you 30 fantasy points at that price tag, he's going to be a solid play here as well. And you do have the option to play 2 centers over on DK. So I think he's even easier to get to over there where he's only 5,100. So maybe you pencil him in. I do like Valanciunas on the other side, and I'll use that to segue into the Pelicans here. No Jose Alvarado, still no Zion Williamson. So yeah, I mean, Brandon Ingram looks great. He's obviously very expensive at 9,700 over on FanDuel. What are we looking at for a price on DK? Yeah, similar price, 9,500. So really strong option, but also tough to get to. I mean, if you don't pay for Luca, I think it's pretty easy to go with like more of a balanced build here. I don't mind that. I just don't think any player really has the same ceiling as Luca. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, we're not going to get the value we want, even if Bam's ruled out. So it probably makes sense to maybe pull Luca, go to someone like Ingram, and then you could fit another kind of mid-range play like Hero or something like that, and feel pretty good about it because it's going to be tough to build on this two-gamer. And I have New Orleans selected, that's why he's not coming up. Um, but yeah, so this is about as healthy as the Pelicans have been recently. Alvarado's been out for weeks. Zion's been out for what feels like months. So Ingram, McCollum look good on both sides. McCollum certainly more affordable and easier to get to, but we've seen some massive games out of Ingram lately. Certainly the higher ceiling play. Valanciunas finally playing consistent quality minutes, getting up to around 30 per night. I think he played a few less last time out. Yeah, actually, I take that back. 24, 22 in his last few games, respectively. So pushing 8K, I don't know that I need to get to him. That is because I think Larry Nance is getting healthier, who is a viable punt if you're kind of desperate. I don't mind him as kind of a last piece in. Very much boomer bust, though. So just kind of to review this entire slate, it's not an exciting one at all. I probably won't be playing heavy volume. If you're a cash game player, this is not the type of slate you want to be getting heavily invested in. We have to keep an eye on the Kawhi news. I think he's going to be in and play the full game. But coming off a back-to-back, nothing would shock me. The Bam Adebayo news is the big piece we're really waiting on. If he's out, Butler and Hero are both going to become priorities. But let's see. I'll slowly start to build a little bit. We got Hero, we got Powell here. Feel better about Powell again if Gordon and/or Marcus Morris are out. Maybe you go McCollum. Point guard is going to be very thin, I imagine. I mean, I'm really not all that interested in Bones Highland. I guess maybe you take a risk on someone like Gabe Vincent if Lowry's out. I would love to get to Luca, but if you go Luca, you're really left kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel at some of these other positions. Oh, Larry Nance. Let's see if the minutes are up. Yeah, I mean, he's up back playing in the mid 20s, so maybe you get to Larry Nance. Something like this is a decent start on FanDuel. And if Bam's out, obviously, you go down to something like Zubats. You can get Butler in there and power forward. I feel pretty good about it. Probably one of those wing pieces for Miami as well. Then over on DK, we got Hero, Powell, Ingram, Bam, Zubats. We're left with 5,600 per player. I mean, that's a decent start, honestly. I don't mind it. Ingram definitely a little bit overpriced. I'd say if Bam was out, you're going to want to get to Butler over him. You're also getting Butler at a discount, which is nice to see. Even now, if I go Butler over Ingram and then maybe go with McCollum and hope he's the better player in this matchup, then that can look decent as well. I mean, there's just not a lot of great value. I think you almost have to go with the balance build. Much easier to fit Luka over on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings, but keep an eye on the news today. I'd probably play light tonight personally, unless you really like your lineup and we get some more news and some value opens up. But as things stand, really tricky two-game slate tonight, but both the games matter for the playoff race, so at least we know these teams are going to be trying to win. Let's have some fun tonight, everyone. Follow me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's make some money. Take care and good luck.